I could just see it happening. I really could. And I got a funny feeling the offensive coordinator is going to be Nathaniel Hackett. And I know some Jet fans are like, because what happened with Denver this year. Offensive coordinator, his game plan works very well with Aaron Rodgers. I could see that happening. Plus, Hackett has a relationship with Saleh, having worked with him in Jacksonville. Man, I mean, there's things that it just makes too much sense. All right, so folks, this is a special episode of the Sports Talk Nation as the rumors abound. The speculation is going crazy. New York Jet fans have completely and totally lost their minds because it's the silly season, it's the off season, and here we are wondering what's the future for the Jets? What is the future for the Jets? And now the speculation is rampant that they're going to go after possibly Aaron Rodgers, if not several other quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson, Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo, you name it, they're all getting named and linked to the Jets. So to join me to get through this, I have the two guys from the Jets podcast. That's right, the Jets podcast. Rick Laughland and Dan Feuerestein. Guys, how you doing?
Doing well, Mike.
Doing all right.
So, guys, just your thoughts very quickly on what the heck is going on here with this Jets off season. This already, we'll get into the Aaron Rodgers stuff in a second, but I mean, just briefly, this is getting off to a very weird and rocky start this off season, hasn't it?
Oh, okay. I was going to say, and Michael, it's not a Jets podcast. It's just another Jets podcast. And it's just another day in Jets world with another quarterback, offensive coordinators, a revolving door at offensive coordinator. And look, you're pretty clear, Michael, how you feel about Aaron Rodgers. I'm in that same boat. Do I love the idea of acquiring an aging diva-type quarterback that's had many issues getting along with offensive coordinators, issues getting along with management in Green Bay? He's looking to rework his contract. You have a Jets legend in Joe Namath basically saying, take the number 12 jersey off my back, Aaron Rodgers. I'll give it to you. Come here. Do anything I can do to make this happen. Look, desperation is not going to be the key and not going to be a factor in helping the Jets. I think they have a nice nucleus of offensive players. They have a defensive staff that I was very critical of at the start of this year. They pulled everything together. They looked, with the exception of not being able to create turnovers on a regular basis, they have a top 5 defense. So the last thing you want to do as a Jets organization is throw all your eggs in one basket with Aaron Rodgers for a 1 or 2 year deal. And that would be the same case with the Tom Brady. I think if they go that route, boy, do the expectations ratchet up because it becomes Super Bowl or bust. And for an organization like you mentioned, Michael, hasn't been to the playoffs since 2010, you want this year to be a stepping stone to get to the playoffs, not all in for a Super Bowl and then let's go to a rebuild or start from scratch. There has to be a middle ground. And frankly, I don't think Lamar Jackson is going to be available. I think he's going back to Baltimore.
Yeah.
Derek Carr is a possibility. But with so many questions in the air, I'll get into my recommendation, but I just don't think Aaron Rodgers makes sense at this point where the Jets are developmentally.
And I will agree with Rick because, I mean, the point is this. Look, this team surprised us this past season. We weren't expecting them to all of a sudden jump to 6 to 7 wins within the first 9-10 games of the season.
Right.
And, obviously the whole thing collapsed towards the back end of the regular season, but still, though, there is a nucleus here. We have players that are ready to basically turn this team around and become something big. The question now is quarterback. And like Rick said, while it's nice to think about maybe bringing over Aaron Rodgers, I don't think he's the guy because how many more years does he have left? I mean, does he have a hell of an arm? Of course he does. But it's the mentality of the quarterback that you have to worry about when you're bringing over someone like an Aaron Rodgers, like a Tom Brady. I mean, we've seen already in the playoffs, Tom Brady, doesn't have it anymore. He's not the dangerous passing quarterback he used to be. He just did not look like himself this season, and he should retire. Aaron Rodgers, honestly, if he's not going to retire, then he should just remain in Green Bay and just retire as a Packer and just be done with it. Everyone that on social media is going absolutely crazy, yelling and screaming, "Oh, I sign him up in a heartbeat and let the Jets give the Packers 2 first rounders right off the bat already." No, 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 no. You cannot go after an aging quarterback who is going towards the end of his career. I'm sorry. I mean, fine. Tom Brady had that one magical year with the Bucks when he came in to play for them after he left the Patriots. Other than that, I'm sorry. It's just not the right way to go for the future of this Jets team, and the future is looking bright. Go
I'll
get a
throw
drink.
another one. I'll throw
Right.
another one in the mix, Michael. Is you had Joe Montana going over to Kansas City, right, and making a AFC championship game, I believe, or divisional round, if I'm not mistaken, losing to the Buffalo Bills. So look, there are stories with aging quarterbacks that have won Super Bowls in other places, maybe became disgruntled or disenchanted with the direction. There you go, direction of the franchise, and it works. But that's probably maybe a 5% success rate, and he's not going to have the long-term future of the team at his best interest. He's going to be the one in win now mode and not, look basically to get rid of all their future assets in order to win now.
Yeah.
So again, could it work? Yes. Will it work? Probably not. And I know Jet fans 50 years now or 50 plus years since a Super Bowl, but it just isn't the right thing to do.
I mean,
And
Other than Tom
mhm.
Brady and Matthew Stafford, the problem has been most quarterbacks who jump from team to team like this at this age, and I'll even throw Peyton Manning in there. Other than those three guys, it doesn't really work all the time. And look, Peyton Manning, when he left the Colts to go to the Broncos, he still had some years left. Even Tom Brady still had some tread on the tires. I don't know. None of us know what Aaron Rodgers has left or whether he wants to keep playing. I mean, he goes on Pat McAfee's show yesterday and he keeps toying around like he always does. Maybe I will retire, maybe I won't retire. Depends what the Packers want to do. I want to retire Packer. I don't know if I really want to be I mean, he goes back and forth and back and forth. And now, last year was the Broncos who were in the middle of this. Now it's the Jets who are in the middle of this. I mean, it's crazy. It really is absolutely insane. And let's just talk about the schematics about the how this would affect salary. Now, he's due $60 million right now up front, Aaron Rodgers. 60 million from the Packers next month. Obviously, they don't want to pay that. So that's why they're talking about getting rid of him, sending him to the AFC. If the if the Jets waited or any team waited until June to make a trade, then the cost that it would the amount that the team would have to pay is about 15 million, which on surface doesn't sound so bad, but he's going to want to renegotiate that contract and get himself some more money. The Jets are right now kind of slightly in salary cap hell. They're right now on the negative side. They're over their cap. They have cuts coming. They have to decide what they want to do with Quincy Williams and Quinton Williams. I mean, this is a difficult offseason coming up for Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh. And Dan, you hit on it earlier, and both of you guys hit on the pressure. If you bring in Aaron Rodgers, all of a sudden the pressure is to win now. And if you don't, everyone's getting fired. And we've seen that before. Brett Favre, for example, with Brett Favre. So do you really want to go down this road again? Are the Jets in the same spot as the Broncos were with Peyton Manning, where they were just a quarterback away? Are they in the same spot as the Bucks were with just needing Tom Brady away? No, they are not that close to being a contender. We watch them every week. They're not as close as a lot of people think. So go ahead, Dan.
No, no, but I was going to say, and I agree with you with the whole Brett Favre situation, because what happened in the middle of that season? Brett Favre, while doing well for the Jets and getting them wins, and yeah, he did pick up an injury during that season, but at the same time, he was also lamenting about retiring. He was lamenting about retiring over
Mhm.
and over. Oh, I don't know if I will, and maybe I won't during the season. He just kept on saying, I'm thinking about retiring, even though he didn't retire and went straight to Minnesota
Mhm.
after his only season with the Jets. Still, though, do you want to have an Aaron Rodgers that's going to lament about retiring during the season? I mean, you don't want that. You don't want that. What's the player? His teammates are going to think like, oh, he just got here and now he wants to think about retiring. And then what happens? He goes to some other team or he does retire at the end of the 2023 season. No, you can't do that. I mean, look, this team right now is a competent quarterback away from making the playoffs, and that's all I'm saying.
Not the Super Bowl, the
Make
playoffs.
the playoffs,
Right.
just making the playoffs. You can't even think about Super Bowl right now. And even though Stephen A. Smith's got to say it on the First Take show on ESPN that if they get Aaron Rodgers, then the Jets are a Super Bowl appearance away. or at least making the Super Bowl. And you know what? He can say whatever he wants. That's fine. But you know what? That's playing into the emotions of all these Jet fans that does social media, that does their own shows, that says that, oh my God, I'd sign this up for a heartbeat. No, no, we are not a Super Bowl contender. We want to make the playoffs. We want to see this team end this losing playoff streak schneid. Get to the playoffs first. Let's make the playoffs first. And if they get on a run, so be it. I'll be happy. But the most important thing right now is this for 2023: 10, 11 or more wins, or everything falls apart and everything hits the fan. And then you got to wonder if Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh are the right men to lead this team into the future.
Yep, Rick.
And I agree with everything you said, Dan. I have to piggyback off that too. I mean, you look at their schedule. Well, just look at the AFC landscape with Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. I mean, all the talented quarterbacks, offensive, defenses. The Jets are going to have to slay some giants just to get through the AFC to even get to a Super Bowl. So, I'm of the belief that they have to crawl before they sprint. And this can be a building block. I don't think any Jet fan, if the Jets get to the playoffs and get ousted in the first round by Buffalo, or they win a playoff game and lose to Kansas City, I don't think either one of those outcomes is going to be, yes, in the moment, and it's going to be heartbreaking, whether it's a close game, whether it's a blowout. Jet fans will be disappointed. Will they be outraged? Will they be wanting to fire anybody? Probably not, and certainly not if Aaron Rodgers isn't in the picture or Tom Brady isn't in the picture. And the way that I feel is Woody Johnson. Look, I've seen this with owners down the line. I saw it with the Nets when they tried to trade for Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce. When they get hasty, they get impatient. They try to put the cart in front of the horse.
Yep.
They maybe push the chips in the middle of the table. It's like Michael and we talked about, sometimes it works, most times it doesn't, and it sets the franchise back significantly. And the one thing I'll say about the NFL too, look, this isn't like when the Nets tried to pair Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, eventually brought James Harden in the mix. You're talking about a single elimination playoff series. So even if you have the most talented teams in the NFL, anything can happen on any given Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, or however these playoff schedules play out. There is no guarantee that if the Jets build a super team around Aaron Rodgers, they could easily get upset in a league that's filled with parity, and that also is a single elimination. All Aaron Rodgers needs is one bad day in the playoffs. And how many Packer fans you have to talk to have seen so many bad days that he's had in NFC Championship games? To me, again, the deck would be stacked against the Jets. But I'll be honest, Woody Johnson did it before with Brett Favre. He's showing that he's getting a little impatient with perhaps Robert Saleh and maybe strong arming him to fire Mike LaFleur. It's a possibility that I think Jet fans are preparing for. If you're asking me and I'm pulling the strings and I'm Joe Douglas, absolutely not. I would rather the way I would rather go, and Lamar Jackson has an injury history. I think the better option to me would be bring in Justin Fields, which there are reports he's available, and allow him to grow as a quarterback. But you also have Mike White re-signing him as a backup option. I think that would be a much better building block for a team that you potentially could groom a quarterback of the future, and you have a great backup option in Mike White for the foreseeable future.
So what would you do with Zach Wilson in that scenario?
You'd have to find some kind of trading partner, or I mean, at this point, what is his value really, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. And is he going to be a distraction while he's on the team? The Jets just cut their losses and take a 6th-round pick and be done with it. Maybe you do that and you trade him to the NFC. Maybe the Seahawks are looking for a quarterback after maybe Geno Smith lands somewhere else. You have to see where his landing spot could be.
All right, so here's what I would do in that situation. I personally am all for Lamar Jackson if he became available. Now, the story the other day was that the Ravens offered him $133 million at the start of the year, and he rejected it. So he probably wants obviously more than that. That value is now taking a hit because of his injury that cost him the last part of the season. So we'll see what happens there in that negotiation. But let's just say that falls through, and then all of a sudden the Ravens make Lamar Jackson available. If I'm the Jets, hell yes, I'm making that call to try to get Lamar Jackson because, look, he's 26 years old. I have a concern about the injury history, yes, but 26 years old, I want a quarterback that I know can be here to the end of the decade, at the very least, not just a 1 year, 2 year. Maybe he'll retire. Maybe he won't retire after a year. Lamar Jackson gives me that option. Justin Fields. I like Justin Fields when he came out. I don't know if the Bears are going to, not necessarily move on from him or not. I'm not too sure. I know the reports that you've heard. I have to wait and see on that one. But Lamar Jackson's the guy that I would be considering consistent on. But the safest pick to me, and I know this is controversial to say this because he hasn't won a playoff game, is Derek Carr. And I know people think, "But Aaron Rodgers is an MVP. He's won a Super Bowl. What are you doing?" Derek Carr's 32 years old. He is a good quarterback in this league. He's been a good quarterback in this league. He's been on bad teams. He's been on teams that have had musical chairs at head coach consistently. And now he's just had a head coach who obviously didn't feel that worked with him at all, in Josh McDaniels. So I don't know. You bring in Derek Carr, still in the prime of his career, probably feels a little extra motivation to show, hey, look, I can still be a franchise-winning quarterback. Goes to a team like the Jets that has some weapons and has a good defense, and he can be there maybe for the rest of this decade. I think he's a safe option too. So that's where I'm going. I'm going Carr or Lamar Jackson if he is available. Jimmy G, I mean, the guy's made of glass. What can I tell you? The guy's made absolutely of glass. Always gets hurt. But those are my options. Aaron Rodgers, if it was, if it was 2017, bring in Aaron Rodgers. But it's 2023. I mean, I feel like I'm saying the same thing I said about Justin Verlander with going to the Mets. I mean, it's like I said the same thing. It's not 2017 anymore.
No, but if I can just say this, Michael, and I agree with you. I mean, look, if you're looking for a quarterback that is, still doing well, yes, he's been on bad teams here and there. He's had inconsistent seasons here and there, but still, though, he's more competent than probably any other quarterback that's out there. That's a veteran quarterback that's done well. Yes, I say bring over Derek Carr. I would love to have Lamar Jackson on the Jets, but like I agree with you, it's the injuries. I think Baltimore will find a way to keep him. I mean, they already said that they're going to keep Lamar and they are going to allow him to pick his own offensive coordinator if they just let go of the last one. So 9 times out of 10, I don't think Lamar Jackson is going to be available. I think the Baltimore Ravens will do enough to keep him. And I think he's going to have to understand that the latest injury he suffered is going to knock down that the price tag that he wants to be paid for. Derek Carr, I think, as we already saw this, he already is saying goodbye to Vegas. He's already saying goodbye to the Raiders. He wants no part of the Raiders anymore. And if the Jets are willing to bring him in, whether it is by trade or when the Raiders can't trade him and they cut him, then that's when he'll be available for everyone else in the NFL. And I think the Jets will be the first one in line to say, listen, we want to bring you in, and this is our asking price. I think he just would, he would savor, this offensive team, the weapons that they has at wide receiver and the return of Breece Hall from injury at running back, and also Michael Carter and Bam Knight. I mean, this is going to be something solid. The only thing the Jets need to do for the 2023 season is to repatch and rework and make healthy once again that offensive line, because that offensive line was absolutely putrid from the middle of the year all the way to the end. It was disgusting.
You hit the nail on the head with the offensive line. I know, Rick, you're going to go there, but can you imagine putting 39-year-old Aaron Rodgers behind this offensive line? You don't even know what Mekhi Becton's going to be, whether he's going to play right tackle or not. Dwayne Brown was limping on one leg at the end of the year and probably won't be back. They don't know who their center is going to be, whether it's McGovern or they go out and get another one. Probably get another one. They got to draft another tackle, you would have to imagine. And Elijah Vera Tucker, who was a great last year, a great player. We'll see what he is coming off of injury. So you're going to put a 39-year-old Aaron Rodgers behind that offensive line, or any quarterback for that matter. I don't care who it is. That's a problem. Go ahead, Rick.
And yeah, to your point, Michael, look, do I hate the move for Lamar Jackson? First off, as we already discussed, I don't think it's going to happen. I get concerned about his injury history, but more so, I still think that the Jets with that offensive line, where they are in their development too, I think Justin Fields, if you look at what he did from a rushing standpoint as a quarterback at his age, he hasn't had the injury history that Lamar Jackson has had, and he has virtually no weapons. And as bad as the Jets offensive line was after it was decimated with all the injuries you just mentioned, the Bears' offensive line was probably one of the worst in all of football, and Fields was able to create basically lemonade out of nothing. So for me, like I said, if I'm looking for a 2 to 3 year window, I think Derek Carr probably is the best option. If I'm looking 3 to 5 years and having a guy here, like you mentioned, Michael, in the vein of Lamar Jackson for 8, 10 plus years, Justin Fields still on a affordable team-friendly deal with the Jets and salary cap hell, able to add additional pieces if they're able to make the playoffs. And that's one thing we didn't even talk about. They're going to play the NFC East, right, Michael, and the AFC West this upcoming season to get to 10 or 11 wins. I don't care what quarterback is here. The AFC East could be won at 10 wins. Buffalo could have 10-7 and win the division. That's how competitive I think the division will be, and that's how difficult the schedule is going to be for all of the teams across the AFC East. So for me, I don't look at it as just 2023. I look at it at trying to build a sustainable contender for 2023 and the next 2 to 3 years.
Go ahead, Dave.
And I think, and let me also say this about Zach Wilson. I think all three of us are in agreement that the best thing the Jets should do is trade him away, go somewhere in the NFC that really wants him. I don't see them trading him within the AFC if they want to trade him. But the thing is this: if they do get Justin Fields, then yes, you have to trade Zach Wilson away. But if you're going to bring over Derek Carr, and knowing, I will say this with Joe Douglas, as great of a drafting as he has these last two drafts, with the exception of Zach Wilson, I think he's desperately going to keep him until they can find a way to really develop Zach Wilson. I'm not saying that's what I want. I'm just telling you what's in the mind of right now Joe Douglas. I think that's the issue we have. But if they get Justin Fields, then you have to trade away Zach Wilson, because that makes no sense to keep both men. Just so what? You can keep Justin Fields and then you make the playoffs and then you trade him away and then you put back Zach Wilson out there? No, that doesn't make sense at all.
That would be such a Jets move for them to trade draft picks to the Bears for the guy they probably should have drafted 2 years ago. But that's another story. I'm going to make a case why the Jets end up with Aaron Rodgers. And it goes back to what the Jets are talking about, Saleh and Douglas were talking about at the end of the season. And it relates to Zach Wilson. The loyalty they have to Zach Wilson, the idea that we want Zach Wilson to be our starting quarterback, to be the franchise. We want him to get away from football. As Saleh said, go to the beach and read a book. Good luck with that one. But
preferably a playbook, not just a book.
Yeah, or the Playboy magazine for that matter. But if he goes to the beach, he may get distracted. But it plays into the idea that, hey, they want to give Zach Wilson another shot. And you bring in Aaron Rodgers thinking, we're going to get 1 year out of Aaron Rodgers. Hope we don't get fired. He takes us to the playoffs. Maybe they get to the division round or the AFC Championship game and see what happens. Hope that Woody Johnson doesn't get so angry when they lose to the Cincinnati Bengals or the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs and they don't get fired because of it. And then you bring back Zach Wilson with everybody back in 2024. That's probably what they're thinking. I could see it happening that way, because Woody gets the quarterback he wants. He gets the superstar quarterback. Joe Namath takes the number down from the rafters and they give it to Aaron Rodgers and they have a ceremony and, fireworks explode, the curse is over and all this other stuff. And then they, bring back, the boy wonder that Aaron Rodgers apparently likes and likes to talk to routinely. If you listen to what he talked about on the Pat McAfee show, it just plays. It's like Hollywood, man. Hey, look, we had the Oscars announced the other day. This is a Hollywood script we're talking about, right? And I could just see it happening. I really could. And I got a funny feeling the offensive coordinator is going to be Nathaniel Hackett. And I know some Jet fans are like, because what happened with Denver this year. Offensive coordinator, his game plan works very well with Aaron Rodgers. I could see that happening. Plus, Hackett has a relationship with Saleh, having worked with him in Jacksonville. Man, I mean, there's things that it just makes too much sense where I could see it happening. Would I do it? No, for all the reasons we listed, because of the fact he is 40 years old. We've been down this road before with Brett Favre. But, man, I could just see the Jets thinking all roses and victories and parades all going through their minds without thinking about what could go wrong first.
I think that's the wrong idea. I mean, look, Woody Johnson has to understand something here. And look, right. I give him credit for at least recognizing that they were this close away from making the playoffs. They were really this close if they did not go on the 6-game losing streak to finish off this regular season, because they had ample opportunity to get points, ample opportunity to get victories, not just on the road, but at home as well. but towards the back end, it just everything fell apart. Woody Johnson needs to sit in the room with Joe Douglas and with Robert Saleh and to just think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Have a calm and rational meeting with everyone and say, who gives us the best option right now to get us over the hump and make the playoffs for the first time in a long time?
Right.
Who is it? Who is that quarterback? That's the thing.
Right, but and Dan, but what the biggest criticism of Robert Saleh is he's too nice of a guy. Even with his buddy Mike LaFleur, I know he was reluctant. He basically, if you read the reports, was strong armed into firing him by ownership and really, they've sent out that press release that he's going to explore other opportunities. I mean, we all know that was, if you want to see it, put it lightly, a mutual parting in the ways, but he was fired. I mean, that no question about that. And if you would have probably asked Robert Saleh if a documentary comes out in 10 years, he would have said, absolutely not. I didn't want to fire my buddy Michael LaFleur. He wasn't the issue. It was Zach. But the owner wanted to, keep Zach in the picture like we've been talking about. But I agree with you, Michael. We've been talking a lot about our personal feelings. Knowing Woody Johnson's history, he cares about what the media says about this team. This team doesn't have the history the New York Giants have. They don't have a waiting list of season ticket holders, with PSLs and the Jets having a 12-year playoff drought. They're probably desperate for ticket sales to get a name like Aaron Rodgers here, to not prove that they were wrong about Zach Wilson, to keep him in the fold, and then basically to be able to use that as an excuse, a 2-year window, let's say with Aaron Rodgers to win. Then you can go back to Zach Wilson, or even as short as a 1-year window. That covers everyone's ass in that front office. It covers Woody Johnson's backside, and they still get a chance to chase this elusive Super Bowl. I could see it, Michael. And like I said, I don't want it. I don't think it's going to be successful. Am I ruling out and saying it's absolutely not going to work? No, but I just think you're really taking a shot in the dark with it. But Woody Johnson's done it before, and he probably will do it again.
Quite well. So let's just wrap this up here. Final thoughts. My final thought is, look, I think Aaron Rodgers is one of the greatest quarterbacks in the NFL. He's been fun to watch throughout his career. The Hail Marys, of course, against Detroit and Arizona in the playoffs were phenomenal. He's not necessarily all-time winner, but one of the all-time great quarterbacks to ever play the position. That said, I understand that he's a very reflective person, and I get that sense when I hear him on the Pat McAfee show. But I sometimes I see where a lot of people have gripes where he's a lot about himself and really more focused on trying to expand his own brand personally off the field. I don't know if that's the right person you want to bring into a young Jets team that's trying to get to the playoffs. Forget the Super Bowls, Dan, as you've mentioned already. Just get to the playoffs. I don't know if I just don't think the Jets are one guy away from getting to the Super Bowl. Could they get to the Super Bowl if Aaron Rodgers comes here? Sure. And we'll come on here and say, you know what? We were all wrong. This was the best thing that's ever happened to the Jets. History tells me, having seen what happened with Brett Favre here, having seen what happens, generally speaking, in the NFL, it's a real shot in the dark. It doesn't always necessarily work all the time. Dan, you go right ahead next. Your final thought.
My final thought is this. Look, like I said, the future of this team is bright. The future of this team is very young, and it's going to do wonders for the Jets. All they need is a competent quarterback to push them through on the offensive side of the ball. I think defense is absolutely fantastic. The one thing I'm more concerned about is the selection of who is going to come over and be that competent quarterback for this New York Jet team. But I'm also concerned about how the fans, and especially Jets fan media, has been going completely crazy all over this. I mean, before even coming on here, I already saw on Twitter, someone just said, let's trade Sauce Gardner, Quinnen Williams, 2 first-rounders just to bring over Aaron Rodgers.
Are you serious?
That is, no, yes. I'm not just making this up just to sound so smart. I saw this before coming on here, and I'm thinking to myself, who is that dumb to say something like this, to bring over Aaron Rodgers from the Packers, and you send that package to Green Bay? This is
40 years old.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's total lunacy. I'm not even going to address that. That's just totally silly.
It is. It's absolutely silly.
But it's amusing nonetheless. But look, the one other thing I'd keep an eye on is Bill Belichick. I watch very carefully the game against the Green Bay Packers, the respect and admiration that Bill Belichick has for Aaron Rodgers, what he would give up at this stage. Look, there's already rumblings that Bob Kraft is getting a little antsy with Belichick not getting this team. They made the playoffs 2 years ago, finishing on the outside looking in, that they are a team that probably could be in the market for a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers in a similar situation like Woody Johnson would do with Zach Wilson. You put Mac Jones on the shelf for a year or maybe 2 years. You're not giving up on him. You're letting him sit and develop. So don't be surprised if all of a sudden there's an arms race between Bob Kraft and Woody Johnson for Aaron Rodgers in this mega sweepstakes that the winner actually may end up being the loser in the end. And it would just be so appropriate for Aaron Rodgers. Of course, if he landed with the Jets, it wouldn't work out. But if he went to New England, all the pieces would come together and they'd probably get to and win a Super Bowl. So that's just a typical, just another day in Jets land, another storyline to watch out for. Because I think as the Super Bowl gets in the rear view and they start looking towards free agency and Aaron Rodgers talk, I think the Patriots will emerge as a suitor for him alongside the Jets. So we'll see how that plays out.
It's the silly season, Dan. I know you always say it's the silly season, and boy, has it gotten started in high gear here in 2023. So folks, leave your comments below, and we'll talk to you next time here on the Sports Talk Nation.